Everyone, and welcome. The Broadband Bunch Zero Touch Learning Series is live. I'm Craig Corbin. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today's session, Muni Broadband, creating the communities where folks want to live. The Broadband Bunch podcasts and Zero Touch Learning Series presented by Utopia Fiber, building a more connected nation, by DXTEL, creators of the Harper Broadband Marketing Library, and by your Zero Touch automation experts, ETI Software Solutions. Be sure to follow the Broadband Bunch on Facebook at facebook.com/The Broadband Bunch and on Twitter at twitter.com/Podcast Bunch. You can access Broadband Bunch podcasts on Spotify, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and on iHeartRadio. A couple of quick reminders before we introduce our panel. Today's session is interactive. If you have questions, please submit them via the chat function, and our team will be monitoring those throughout the event. The session also being recorded and available for future access. We would really appreciate sharing any potential topics that you might have for future Zero Touch Learning Series sessions, or if you'd like to suggest prospective panelists. And again, that can be done via the chat function. And thanks so much in advance for your participation. It's time now to introduce our moderator for today's session, a 30-year veteran of the communications industry. Heather Gold is CEO of HBG Strategy and previously served as president and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association, following her tenure as senior vice president of external affairs and access management for XO Communications. She graduated magna cum laude from Tufts University with bachelor's and master's degrees in economics, earned an MBA in finance and marketing from Washington University in St. Louis, and also completed the general management program of the Harvard Business School. Our moderator for Muni Broadband, creating the communities where folks want to live, Heather Gold. Heather, have a great session.
Is it just me, or is it Heather on mute?
I can't hear you, Heather. I was just sending the chat.
Okay. Again, that's one of the t-shirts I want to buy, that you're on mute. She was working earlier.
We still don't have you, Heather. And we ask our attendees patience as we work through the technical.
Okay, can you guys
audio.
hear me now?
Yes, we can. The floor is once again yours.
So Robert has offered to buy me a t-shirt that says you're still on mute. So I think I'll like that. So let me begin again. So we're so welcome to welcome today these three providers of municipally owned fiber to the home networks. And we think we'll have a great discussion. So let's set the playing field. We know how challenging it is for smaller communities to get the broadband that their citizens want and need if they're trying to work with large incumbents. For large incumbents, these small communities just do not have the kind of return on investment that is needed to justify this investment. So these three towns, all with populations around 50,000 or less, would be classified as small towns. While both Highland and the city of Wilson are within a comfortable drive of a major metro area, St. Louis and Raleigh, Danville is not. Danville is also slightly different in that it was built as an open access network on which three ISPs currently operate. RiverStreet, an enterprise operated by a successful rural co-op, is an ISP currently providing services to residential customers, which it acquired by purchasing Gamewood, the first ISP to provide services on the Danville network. So let's meet our panelists. Angela Imming, who is Director of Technology and Innovation and the GM of Highland Communication Services for the City of Highland, Illinois. Next, Brittany Smith, who started her career with the City of Wilson, Greenlight Communications, in 2007 and has had the opportunity of signing up the very first members. She has managed both customer service and the United Communications Center before landing her current role as the Gig East Exchange, which I'm sure she'll tell us about. It's their newest co-working space located in historic downtown district. Last but not least is Robert Taylor, who is the Business Development Manager for RiverStreet Networks, and he has had that role since the purchase of Gainwood Technology Group in 2018. Prior to that, he served as the CEO of Gainwood, which was the ISP servicing the local Danville network. So let's take a couple of minutes here and introduce your companies to the audience. Specifically, where is your community located, the extent of your service, and how long you've been in business, etc. So I'm going to start with the rose among the thorns here, Robert.
So it's hard to say when if we're just focusing on our Danville network, that of course is out of Danville, Virginia. And on that network, we offer triple play services. So we offer high-speed internet, VoIP services, and IPTV. Now, we're owned by a wholly owned subsidiary, which is owned by a co-op out of Wilson or Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And that is RiverStreet Communications of Virginia. So if you look at that part of the company, that is Southside Virginia and a significant amount of North Carolina as well, where we're working with rural areas trying to bring broadband out using federal, state, and local funding. But for this discussion, we're going to focus on the Danville network, which is out of Danville, Virginia.
Okay, Angela?
Hi, yeah, my name is Angela Imming, and our community is a bedroom community in the eastern suburb of St. Louis. So we are about 25 to 30 miles east of St. Louis in southern Illinois. We are a bedroom community, but we do have some manufacturing and a couple of nationally recognized, nationally operating corporations in town. And that will be important later when we talk about why we did what we did. We offer voice, video, and data services. We have synchronous gig Ethernet to businesses and to our residents. We offer triple play services, so that also includes video and voice services. And we've been in business since about 2010. Our size, just briefly, is we are the smallest one here, no doubt. We have probably about 11,000 people as soon as we get the census back, and we enjoy a 56% saturation rate over our competitor, who is Charter Spectrum.
Brittany.
I'm Brittany Smith here at Greenlight. We are in Wilson, North Carolina. We're about 40 miles east of Raleigh. So we consider ourselves to still be kind of a suburb area, and we surprisingly, and which we'll get more into that later, but we surprisingly had a lot of people that have commuted from the Triangle area. We currently have about 11,000 residential customers and over 700 business customers. And then we started actually in 2008 is when we launched our pilot program. So it was the beginning of June. We just celebrated officially 13 years. I know 13 is not necessarily considered a great number, but we're pretty excited.
I think that's terrific. And Robert, how many residential subscribers again do you have?
Well, the company total has about 30,000 subscribers. Now, if I was just to look at the Danville network, we have just less than probably 1,000 residential subscribers on the Danville network.
Okay. Angela and Brittany, what were the precipitating factors in your communities determining to build their own all-fiber networks? And how did you determine what that could look like from a corporate perspective?
You can go ahead, Brittany.
Thanks, Angela. So for Wilson, we had been for a long time, 70s, 80s, and then the 90s was kind of falling off. We had been the leader in tobacco sales. We were actually called Wilson the greatest tobacco city in the country. And that was kind of our identity. And as the 90s came around, a lot of those jobs actually went overseas, and we saw a decline not only in, the businesses, but also we just became, there was a complete decline on actual residency. So we started looking, I guess you could say, for a new identity. Our city leaders came together and thought, what can we do to actually attract people back here to our community? What can we do that is going to stand out? And so that's when offering fiber to the home actually was put on the table. And of course, it was definitely a decade-long conversation, because it really wasn't put into fruition until about 2004. But that's what the main factor was something that, because Wilson is a small city here in North Carolina, we do have a lot of other competing cities that are offering things at that time that were much better, I guess you could say, than Wilson. But it's actually been the best decision, of course, that our city leaders could have ever done. Some of those are still here. Some of our city council members are still here. And it's been a big win-win for everyone. As in turn, again, I don't even know if it was necessarily something as a selling feature that we really wanted. Obviously, it wasn't for profit. It was something that we wanted to provide to our citizens, to the businesses, and be able to keep those, especially, not something else I know I keep referring to things that we'll talk about later down the line, but to retain those students who are graduating and then going off to college, what would be something that would actually bring them back and want to start a family here?
And Angela?
Yeah, so I'll hit on some of the things that Brittany said, but for Highland, we are a very small town. We don't have 10,000 customers. We have 10,000 residents. And if anybody has taken note with Small Town USA in the past, 15 to 20 years, it's that your small towns just continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so the city of Highland understood that we have Cordy Construction, we have Trow Nutrition, we have Highland Supply, and we also have Bosler Electric. And those 4 businesses are at least nationally, and 2 of them are global. And they came to the city leadership and around about 2008, when we were still on CSL, and I believe Frontier was the provider at this point. And they just had a hard conversation with the leadership that said, we are leaving. We can't stay here because of the lack of your technology and your communications infrastructure. So to make a long story short, the city leadership reached out to those providers, and we tried to work with them to get them to build out in our community. And they were like, yeah, hit the road, Jack. We are not interested in you. And so that really was the precipitating factors for why we decided to put this plan together. And suffice it to say, we have retained those businesses, and we have actually recruited several more. So we still are a bedroom community, but we find more and more people are coming to Highland to work who might live in the smaller towns. And I think later on we'll get into maybe some of the marketing approaches that we took to kind of draw people to our neighborhood. But we have about 80% saturation of our business customers. So 80% of the businesses who are in town choose Highland Communication Services. So we feel like we've been successful in that effort. Many others, but that was the KPI, the key performance indicator, and we have absolutely nailed that.
Great. And Robert, are you aware, or do you know the background between why Danville decided to build its network? I know it's a little more like North Carolina. You face considerable challenges in Virginia building a municipal fiber network.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is I tell people I'm closer to North Carolina than I am in Virginia. If I turn right when I come out of my driveway, within about a mile, I'm in North Carolina. So Danville is right on the border of North Carolina. And not only did we lose our tobacco industry, but we also lost our textile industry.
Right.
About 2004, the city decided that they needed to do that. And one of the things was to get more into technologies. And to do that, they were looking at building a municipal area network. Now, at the time, you've got to realize in Southside Virginia, we weren't getting broadband services from our incumbent telephone or cable providers. The little company I was working for, Gamewood, we were actually investing in wireless to try to bring wireless point to multi-point services out there. And at that time, we thought 512K down was, the fastest speed you were ever going to need. And that, but anyway, so the city looked at it. They said, we need to connect all our schools with the library, the fire department, our utility locations to this municipal area network. And once we do that, we can provide a very large internet pathway to them. And so that's how it first started. And then after that took on and grew, within a few years, they came to us. We were incumbent internet service provider and said, would you all be interested in reselling broadband internet services to the local industries and businesses? And so we worked with them on that. And as that development took on a whole other level, then they came to us and said, how about residential? But if you do residential, you need to look at triple play. So we had to go out there and build some partnerships with some outside groups to get that triple play together to actually start doing the residential. But again, the city just did it because they had a need, and the existing providers were not going to fill that need, so they had to do it on their own to do that.
So unlike, and the other thing I'll say about Danville, because I've been there, unlike Highland and City of Wilson, they are not close to major highways. And that's also been a challenge in Southside Virginia. We already have a question, so we'll see how the flow goes here. To what extent are you all worried about these new federal funding opportunities, and will they create overbuilding, or are the requirements for the federal funding strict enough that you don't anticipate any competitors or multiple companies coming in your area? Do you feel pretty protected, I guess, is the question. It sounds like all of you have pretty good take rate. I see Angela's she's like, okay, go.
Yeah, I want to take that one because, at some point we are municipally owned. So we are not only not for profit, but we actually are owned by our community. And, I think I've been in this business for about 30 years. And I think that this would have rattled me a great deal, maybe 15 or 20 years ago. But I think that the reality of what we're doing here is providing access to everyone. And competition is a beautiful thing. And we are where we are now because there wasn't enough competition. And so I'm not concerned about it. I don't know that there are enough requirements or caveats around the money getting out, but I know that there are fees, and there are you have to pay some of that back if you don't do what you say you're going to do. And I feel like there's going to be a large majority of those ventures that don't do what they said they were going to do. And at that point, it's okay because the infrastructure is there. And that's really what is expensive. So I think that opens the doors for other people to come in and continue providing that. And, where we are in particular, and probably where Robert is, I see the divide in the digital world, and that's something that just has to be closed. So I don't think this is going to get what we intended originally, but I think it's the precursor, and I think this has to happen in order for the follow-on things to occur.
What about you, Brittany? Are you worried about any overbuilding from the new federal funding?
I think we are pretty much in agreement with exactly what Angela was saying. The most expensive portion of that is building the infrastructure. So, once that's there, that leaves options open for other things. And that's the most important part of it all, is let's at least get it built out. But no, it really hasn't been a concern that we've discussed yet.
Robert, have you seen any indications of that?
So the reason why I'm smiling is because our, RiverStreet Communications is one of the largest receivers of CAF2 and RDOF funding in the state of Virginia. Now, we receive that money in areas that are unserved. So these are areas that they don't have a network. So for like the city of Danville, there were no blocks available in the auction to get because those areas were being served. So really, when you look at the federal funding that's out there, they're trying to fund areas in which, there's just not a business case, even for a cooperative like ourselves, to go out and build to it without some sort of assistance. So when you look at our plans right now, we've got about a $32 million CAF2 build, and we have about a $40-some million RDOF build, and that's across about 10 to 12 counties, passing about 25,000 customers. And we've got 6 years to build it in, and we've gone out and got a $48 million USDA loan to help with that. So our plate is pretty full, but I can tell you our plans aren't to overbuild any areas in which there's already an existing fiber network, because it just doesn't make sense. There's so many areas out there right now where people, they don't have anything. I mean, they don't even have dial-up. A lot of areas, dial-up customers are they're forced to use satellite, or they have their cell phones. And, now they're getting caught with, higher bills, or they're getting cut off towards the end of the month because they've used all their minutes, or getting slowed down, So there's so much areas out there in the rural parts of Virginia and North Carolina and other parts of the country where there's just no service. And those areas really are what this funding is supposed to be designed to go after.
Good. And then a follow-up question to that is, how did you guys fund your networks?
So for the city of Danville, the interesting thing was for the city of Danville, it might be unique because the city has its own utility department. So not only does the city of Danville provide electricity, but they also provide water, sewer, and the whole thing. So as part of the utility department, they started, again, this broadband municipal area network. And from the money they saved off of being able to connect all of their locations with one large shared internet pipe, they started building out into the community, and it's been a self-supporting model. So as we added businesses, the money that the city gets off of that network, and what happens right now, there's a revenue share. We charge a certain amount to the customer for whatever services they are, and then the city gets a percentage off the top, and they take that money and they reinvest it back into maintaining and building out that network. So that's all been a self-supported network over the last, again, since about 2004.
Yeah.
Brittany,
I would say sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Angela.
Okay, I was just going to say quickly, to what Robert said, we have enterprise accounts here, which is our electric department. And so our electric department is able to operate in a plus as long as you take that profit and you reinvest it into your infrastructure. And so we actually let bonds, Build America bonds, and we use our enterprise account, which is our electric, our public utilities. And I think we were approved to borrow 20 million. We used 13, and since I came on board, we have not used any of that bond money. We have been self-sufficient. So as we make money, and as we increase our take rate, our customers, we use that and we use it to build out. We have about 600 more facilities left to connect up until we're done with the city limits.
Brittany?
We did take out a nice loan back in 2007, but happy to say that it's almost paid off.
Yeah, good.
We're almost in the black.
So what kind of people are just jumping ahead here. So let's do the first general one, and then we can go into the specific on the services. So the general one, and I'm sure everyone on this call has heard this before, how do you deal with the political argument that Muni Network should not be competing against private companies? I have my own answer, but I'm going to let you all, the experts, answer it. Whoever wants to take it on first. I know, Brittany, you've had some real wars on this. So
We have, and like Angela mentioned earlier, we did initially go to our incumbents as well and ask before we even, when the city council was discussing these options, we went to them and said, hey, this is what we're looking to do. Are you guys interested? And we were told the same thing, like, no, we're never going to do that. And so that's what we've always tried to push, is that, again, this is not trying to fight those incumbents. It's just that we didn't have the options that we felt we needed for our city to grow. And so this is what we decided to take on. Again, it's an option for everyone. That we didn't make it where it was a service that you had to have in the city of Wilson. There's competition there. It's created for those who decided they didn't want to go with Greenlight. It's at first, I think now they've become pretty stable, but at the beginning, if they didn't want to come over to Greenlight, they got a great deal with our competitors. Kids, once we came in, they started slashing prices and giving all kinds of discounts, whereas people weren't getting that before. I mean, their bill for triple play service may have been $300, and we started offering it at $99. And then that's when they started coming in and offering it for $50. So that's pretty much been how we tried to explain that to everyone, is that, we're just here to provide a better level of support for everyone. We're really not trying to fight them, even though they have definitely came after us.
Robert or Angela?
I don't have much to say because we slipped into this before Illinois smacked everybody down and said you can't do that. So, our timing was impeccable, and we don't have any politics to deal with. So I can't address that.
So in Virginia, right now, Virginia is pretty open. They allow municipals to operate networks. And one of the fortunate things for us was that the city recognized they didn't necessarily want to be an ISP, and they were able to find a local partner who was willing to do that. Again, at the time, we didn't have access on our own back door for triple play, but we went out and formed partnerships. So we actually have a fiber connection between a head-in that's out in Floyd, Virginia, from a co-op out there called Citizens. And then we also went out and found a VoIP service provider that we could put and bundle together a package. And the interesting thing, just like Brittany, as soon as we started offering that, the incumbents' prices just started going down. And so, in our area, the city's willing to put the capital in to invest in going out to the neighborhoods, but we're competing head to head with a very large cable provider. And one thing we do is at least we keep their pricing honest, but at the same time, the homeowners have options. And sometimes, especially nowadays, sometimes we have homeowners that want both services. They want a redundant service because they might have a home office or something else going on. So, where we used to think redundant services were something in business or, commercial or industrial facilities need, now we're seeing a lot of small businesses saying, no, I need two service providers. I cannot afford to have my internet go down. It's just amazing.
Interesting. So one last question from our audience for now. Be sure to keep putting your questions in the chat line. As you can see, I'm getting to them. And this brings us into our discussion of marketing, in particular to the residential customer. The question is, what revenue streams do you generate from the network? So I think that would be a good place to jump into some of the products and services you might offer to residential customers. Angela, I know you're a big marketing person. I've heard you speak about that before. So
yeah, it's interesting. I can't wait till you get to the question about what do you have to do to make, like, what were your biggest challenges? Because marketing isn't one of them, but it's the fun part. So our biggest revenue generator, is internet, it's data. Video is a big fat loser. And I don't like TV, so I hate it. But honestly, our biggest revenue generator is we offer tail circuits. We offer Ethernet virtual private lines from our data center to one of the biggest, it used to be one of the biggest data centers in the nation, and that's 900 Walnut in St. Louis or 210 Tucker. And so we make a considerable amount of money by partnering with a couple of local providers to offer pricing for getting a connection here in town and then handing it off to that, into our data center, into the router, and dropping it off at 900 Walnut or 210 Tucker. That is like hands down, straight up cash. And it also allows you to go to your bigger businesses or your businesses that are franchises and might have a requirement that says you have to use this company, or you have to, if you can get that piece, it's basically an active Ethernet fiber connection that is going to sit in the ground, and there's nothing going over it at all. And so that's the most lucrative part of our business. And
So
I
what
think
about
that was
for residential customers, Angela?
Internet. It's internet. We haven't started offering. We did buy. I'm not going to tell you what kind, but we bought an incredible layer 5, 6, 7 firewall, and we put it right in the core of our network so that we can start offering security services, especially if we decide to lift net neutrality, which would be a real problem for us as communication engineers. But we haven't really offered any above and beyond services. We did start offering camera installation, and we allow them to store up to 10 terabytes of data in our data center. They love that, businesses and residential as well. And then we also got our first partnership with a co-location services. So we now have become a mini cloud, right? So we're a Microsoft data center. So we have all of our Microsoft services right here too. And that allows us to offer our services or offer our data center space for co-location services. So we have a couple small businesses around that didn't want to pay the backup storage rates that are in the big cities. And so they put their servers in our data center, and we offer them a connection into it for management. And that's also kind of an out-of-the-box way to think about what you can do to maximize your revenue.
Brittany.
Same for us, definitely internet. For business and residential customers, we make nothing off video. We've even tried to move, we've had so many discussions and saying, hey, let's just offer broadband. And our community is still very heavily glued to the TV. And I shouldn't even say that, because now you have so many streaming services that really all you need is internet, but we cannot get a lot of our customers off of just basic cable. And then phone, we have seen a major decline over the past couple of years with residential customers, but businesses are still heavily using phone service.
We haven't seen the drop. I forecasted a decline in voice services, and it's just slower than what we anticipated. But boy, I'll tell you what, our business with Frontier and the situation they're in right now, we just onboarded about 15 businesses in the last 3 weeks. So voice is strong. Voice is strong.
Robert, what about for Danville?
So first of all, I've got to agree. IPTV is a lost lead for us. I mean, it really is. And we're looking at different options to try to provide some other type of subscription service that, is out there in the cloud. And, our biggest moneymaker is internet access. So we do have VoIP services. And I think we see the same thing with residential kind of falling off because everybody has their cell phone. However, we do see an increase in what I'll call VoIP or cloud PBX services on the business side. And so it's very interesting. When I first came on board in a technology company back in the mid 90s, one way I was making money was selling phone systems to people who were renting phone lines from the phone company, right? So they have digital phones on their desk that go back to the phone company's PBX in the central office. And now we're coming full circle. People are getting rid of their phone systems, putting their stuff out in the cloud. But the biggest seller is internet services, and the other ones are, again, they're just a function of it. I mean, broadband, then you can go out and get your own entertainment, TV entertainment, or you can get your own voice services. So
I have not resorted to doing advertisements for YouTube TV yet, but it just, you can't, it weighs you down. It really does.
Right.
So.
And we actually did go through a situation, because I should say we are offering something for the past couple of years that is different. We have GLTV, and it was with Mobi TV. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the whole, And so a couple of months ago, we were freaking out. What are we going to do now? Like, are we going to start marketing and letting people know this is Hulu, this is Netflix, this is YouTube?
Right.
Start looking at those options. But that actually has been a lot better. And so now we're talking about how do we move our customers off of the legacy cable onto GLTV at least.
Yeah, we're right in that process, Brittany. We were one of the last ones that got in before Mobi said, yep, we're not taking anybody else. So we also were planning for we thought we weren't going to do this for 3 or 4 years, but sorry. So no, we're still in it for now. And the Mobi TV platform has been very beneficial. And I feel like we're not going to make money, but we're not going to lose as much as we were. So.
Exactly.
So another question has come in. Now that there's a more visible distributed workforce, and with the understanding that some remote workers require an office environment, I think this is going to lead right into you, Brittany. Have any of you considered creating work hubs to expand access to employers in their neighboring communities?
We did.
So I know, isn't that part of your new launch?
It is. Like Gig East, it's called the Gig East Exchange. And the idea came from Gig East as a whole, which was a summit that we started back, I believe it was 2016 or 2017 when we had the first summit. And it was just a day event or a 2-day event. And we started talking about how can we continue those conversations? We're having so many great speakers that are coming, and then there's really no follow-up. After that, you can reach out via email, but where could you go and continue to talk about all of the great things that are happening in our state and our community? So we started having meetups. We would do those monthly at the local brewery downtown. And then again, it started talking about, could we have our own physical space for Gig East? And again, this is under the Greenlight umbrella. So the exchange idea was formed, and it's taken a couple of years. We're in a 100-year-old building downtown. It used to be a furniture store, so it has some great history. It's taken a while to renovate space, but we were finally ready last year around April. And then, we were right in the thick of COVID. So co-working wasn't necessarily what people wanted to hear about at that time. But we did still have a great amount of interest, and we hadn't even marketed yet for people who were looking for, exactly like you were talking about, Heather, somewhere that they could get out from home, especially now working from home. We've been doing this for over a year. Like, we just need a different atmosphere, somewhere else to go and do exactly what you're doing at home, but just have a different view. So we officially opened in May to co-working. We have office suite rentals upstairs, and they have been taken since November. But still, the downstairs portion's been kind of dead because really we haven't been able to offer those co-working memberships. But we are now, and again, today is our grand opening, so we're really excited to have everyone come out.
Today? Wow.
Yeah, today at 4.
Busy day, busy day.
Busy day. But yeah, we're really excited for people to come out and see what we're offering new under Greenlight.
So Robert and Angela, do you have these kind of work hubs?
We do not. We do not. I will tell you that about 3 years ago, we partnered with Strategic Network Groups, Michael Curry and team, and we did an amazing survey, got a lot of information. At that point, 33% of our residential respondents said that they had an informal work from home agreement with their employers, and higher, I can't quote the exact number, but a higher percentage said that they had an informal work from home agreement. And so most of our residents, in Highland already kind of had that. So I'm not sure with the pandemic and the aftermath, maybe it makes sense to kind of create a space inside of Highland, but we haven't really heard the need for that. But I appreciate the thought. Maybe we'll look into it.
How about you guys, Robert?
So there was a local entrepreneur who put together a co-working space already in Danville. But there's also, on some of the federal grants that we've received, there's also a requirement there to set up not necessarily co-working space, but internet access locations and stuff. And we're currently working with another county in Virginia called King and Queen County. And one of the locations there is a telecommuting space that's actually being sponsored not only by the county, but also the Virginia Department of Transportation. And it's set up to allow people from that area to go there and telecommute from there as far as using the internet, as opposed to having to get on the road to travel up to the DC area or travel down. And the interesting thing is, part of our build in that area, that fiber to the home build that we're doing out in that area, our largest data hut is going to be just right across the parking lot from that telecommuting center, just for that reason.
Interesting. So I know City of Wilson has had challenges with this, but how about Highland and Danville? Have you expanded your networks at all into neighboring communities? And Robert, that picks up on you with what you're doing with King and Queen County. Or have you been asked to expand your fiber networks and have been able to?
So again, the city of Danville has a network, but we have partnered with them in trying to go out and get additional funding to help expand that into Pennsylvania County. At the same time, we at RiverStreet ourselves, we're in the process of building out a substantial fiber network throughout Southside Virginia to go, like I said, it's going to pass about 25,000 customers across about 12 counties in Southside Virginia once we get it done.
And how about Angela? Have you done it?
Yeah, we have been asked. To the immediate east of us, we have another incumbent Hometel, and they actually have fiber. So they don't ask us in that direction, but certainly to the east and to the north and the south. And we have not been able to do that. We don't have our phase one complete yet. So we'll see how things go after the stimulus, and this CAF 2 spending comes out. We'll see how saturated it is. But at this point, we're not considering that.
Okay. So I know Brittany talked about this when she talked about why they decided to build to keep college graduates in the community and so they wouldn't move. So my question to the three of you is, have you seen the results of having this better broadband? In other words, have you sort of slowed or stopped the brain drain of the younger people leaving because of the need for better connectivity? Robert?
So so again, Danville itself, maybe 10 years ago, was a community of about 60,000. And I would say it wasn't too long ago, it was probably a community about 45,000. We had lost quite a bit of the population. The interesting thing, one of our largest groups of customers right now are high density housing units. So we have all these old tobacco and all these old textile mills in the downtown area that have been renovated, and they're being renovated because there's job opportunities here, there's some educational opportunities here, and of course these locations are getting all rented out by young adults. So now there's a brewery down there, there's a tequila bar down there, there's a couple really some nice restaurants. You can get access to the walking path, which is probably about 12 miles long along the river, and there's all sorts of things going on. And so we now have, I would say, across 4 or 5 of these buildings, we probably have close to, and when I gave you our customer count, I count each one of those buildings as only one customer. But yeah, but they have, we have some that have as upwards to 100 to 200 tenants. So we probably have, across those buildings, we probably have about 300 or 400 tenants, and each one, as part of their rental agreement, they actually have our internet and TV services in each of the apartments. So they just pay that each month. So I have seen a significant amount of uptake in a younger population here in Danville. Now, are they living here after they finish whatever they're doing? I don't know. I'm hoping they are, because I know that, the city seems to be on a significant rebound. And part of that is due to the technology we have. I mean, not only do you have Danville having a fiber, but there's a Mid-Atlantic broadband communities through the Tobacco Commission. So when we lost our tobacco industry, Virginia had set up a tobacco commission. The Tobacco Commission invested in this, it's almost 1,000 miles of fiber that runs throughout all the counties that were tobacco counties back in the day. And fortunately, the Danville connection is housed in the same location as the MBC in this area. So, we have connectivity out to the world, and now we're seeing the benefits of getting global businesses locating into Danville because of the quality of life is improving quite a bit through technology, by the way.
Right. And Angela, are you seeing the same thing in Highland, more young people and a slower decline or increase, if you even, in population?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the upcoming census numbers. I know they're going to be high. Our housing market, not unlike a lot of other places, is really tight. I wouldn't say that it's with necessarily young. I mean, young compared to me, but young. But that's not really our shtick, right? That's not where we operate. We operate in I'm an adult, I have children, I want to have a nice, safe, smart, progressive, and kind of convenient place to live. And so when our marketing, when we started with our marketing approach, we were very specific. We also know that we are not going to get people from Missouri to move to Illinois. That's not going to happen. The state of Missouri has a lot more to offer than Illinois does right now. So what we decided to target was the demographic, like I said, I'm an adult, I want a house, I want a safe place to raise my family. But we did that through going after the demographic of people who lived in Illinois, but who might have lived in locations or other small towns that have dried up and not left any opportunity. And that's exactly what we're seeing coming in. People who want to live close to where they work and who want to, have friends and go to the watering hole with the people they live by. And we've absolutely seen an uptick. They like their internet too, not just the young people.
Right. Brittany, how about you all?
We have, I think for us, it's also been, being able to provide that service to Parks and Rec, because we have a state-of-the-art athletic complex, Gillette.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Yep.
Just a few weeks ago, there was a national men's and women's soccer tournament there. And I mean, that was the deciding factor on where they were going to have it, was based off of location and being able to live stream, without any issues. And so things like that, I mean, people love technology, but they also love to have athletics, to be outside. And so offering that service at all of our parks, I think has definitely been an eye catcher. And even like Angela was saying, it's not just about keeping or having the younger population, it's just having them as they continue to grow. We do want them to stay here, build that family and not go and move to a larger city just because they don't feel that we're offering the things that those larger cities are offering, because we absolutely are.
One of the other things I wanted to follow up was Angela had talked, I've seen this in a lot of the Highland literature, is how good their public schools are. And I wanted to get the sense from all of you on if your anchor institutions have been positively impacted by the availability of your fiber. And by that, I mean education, healthcare, government, are you seeing those institutions actually take advantage of the capabilities that you have now by doing all fiber?
Yeah, we are. As a matter of fact, we provided a primary connection to a high school complex that is about 8 miles down the road because our fiber happened to go by them. And so it's not only the ones in our local community, right? Our high school does. We built a brand new hospital about 8 years ago, and they took advantage of our fiber. We have a huge venue in town now where they do the I don't know, whatever celebrations. It was an old factory that they converted, and yeah, our anchor institutions don't take the Illinois Century Network. This is like how the state versus local and what it means. The state of Illinois has the Illinois Century Network, which connected back when I was really young. I was on that board for the state of Illinois, where we connected our hospitals, K through 12, all of our educational institutions, and our prices are better, our reliability is better, and our speeds are better. So the education and the hospitals and all the government entities use us instead of the state-provided network. So, yep.
That's great. And Robert, have you seen that in Danville?
Well, again, the Danville network is starting off as a municipal area network. I mean, one of the things I do know is that the schools were first on that network, and then they've been won back over by the incumbent who brought their prices down. However, once the new E-rate comes out, we'll have an opportunity to hopefully win them back. But it definitely seen where one of the opportunities that we have, the hospital, we have a local university here, we have the community college, and a lot of those not only will use us as a primary, but they might use us as a primary and an incumbent as a secondary, or there might be the other way around. A lot of these locations, what we're seeing now, they're needing a fiber connection because they need that upload speed to be as fast as the download speed, but they also need to be up all the time. And so what we've seen in some locations is, like in the hospital, we might be the primary and the incumbent is the secondary, and they're using them to feed the hospital beds and everything. But if something goes on with our service, and they can cut over to them as the primary, and so on and so forth. We've seen that at the college. We've seen that in a bunch of the locations. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we're actually starting to see that down to the residential level, where you have residential customers who are saying, I need 2 connections so that I can have redundancy, because I can't afford with my in-house business to go down for any period of time. It's quite interesting.
And Brittany, how about you guys?
Yeah, we offer to obviously our public school system. We have it at our private schools. I mean, we I think at this point support all education in Wilson, and so obviously it's been a great benefit to them. They, before that, I believe, would have issues all the time. And with our service, it's reliable. It's different than the incumbent. But I think the other part of that too is that when they do have an issue, if there is a question, or if there's something they're looking, some other service they feel that they need there, then because it's community, they know who to reach out to. So I think that's probably been the biggest benefit for them, is not ever feeling like you're just left out there waiting for service to be restored.
Good. Have you guys implemented a virtual customer portal yet, where your customers can, and I'm talking about your res customers, not just your biz, can do anything they need to be done with their service online?
Not exactly, kind of. Moby has really brought that along. You could not have done that with linear cable television. And I don't know what back office you all use, but we use GLDS, and they have really brought their game up in terms of an interface, a controller that allows you to push those options out to the end user and allow them to kind of precipitate changes and implement the billing in the back end. But we take requests. We have online applications. But in terms of them actually being able to impact their service, I'm not sure that the technology is quite there yet, unless you create something that's proprietary, and we don't have the resources for that.
Brittany, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, it's something that we're working on. We've been trying to figure that out for a while now. We don't have a way to actually change the services that you're currently getting, but we do have online bill pay. We also offer a service called My Usage, which was intended to help those who would need a security deposit in order to get service, but it's actually ended up being a service that everyone's taking. And with that, you go in each day, you can see, you know, if your service is $150 a month. For some folks, especially if they're, you know, living on a fixed rate, like it's not always going to be easy to pay that $150. So they can go in each day and see what is needed in order for their service to not be cut off. They can make incremental payments just in order to keep the service on. So yeah, right now for our customers, it would be based off of billing, but we're working on getting services.
Robert, are you doing anything like that?
Well, yeah, we don't have an online portal for them to go in there and change service. We have the ability for them to do bill pay. We have the ability for them to do online requests for services and stuff, or you know, submit a ticket for repair or something like that. But we don't have the ability to go in there and say, I want to change my service from 100/100 to 250 past 250, hit a button and have it happen. Right now, they have to contact one of our CSRs to get that change to be made.
I just brought this up because last month we were talking to a Canadian provider who has a real IT background. He's the CEO, but that was his background. And he was telling us he's looking to implement all online customer portal where if somebody has a friends coming in for the weekend, they can up their bandwidth just for 3 or 4 days. He says that's his nirvana right there, is to be able to make that
happen. We're very close to that. You can right now do some of those things through our GLD interface with Mobi TV. But in terms of your internet and Calyx, I don't believe they have developed that yet. But I would be surprised if we met a year from now and they don't have it. I'm looking forward to that. Hands off.
I'm getting the big hook in the sky message here. So I'd like to close with one question. What is the one compliment you receive consistently from your residential customer? And we'll just go around the horn. Brittany, you want to start?
I mean, everyone continues to tell us, I mean, this is very generic, but just how great we are and how nice it is to have a provider that's in Wilson that's local. You know, people call all the time, especially in a customer service or our tech support, and it may be their neighbor, you know, so it's, again, just nice to have someone that you're actually working with that's in the community.
Angela?
Yeah, I'll say what Brittany said. That kind of goes, you know, it never gets old. It's all the time. They love us. But I'll tell you quickly, when I was in St. Louis today with my mom, and I told the doctor, we really have to go because I'm speaking on a panel. What for? I told him, and he said, "Oh, is that Highland?" And I said, "Yeah, it's Highland." So right in the middle of St. Louis, people know about us. They know about what we do, and you know, they're a little bit jealous.
And Robert?
Yeah, again, I think it's you people like the fact that it's a personal, local touch. They like the fact that they have options. You know, they like the fact that they know who they can talk to locally to get something done if they need it.
And with that, I will thank you guys all very much. I'm turning it over to Craig.
Well, thank you, Heather. Great discussion. Thanks to the panelists. So intrigued with a lot of the thinking that brought the decisions into place. Brittany sharing that the city of Wilson, the leadership, deciding to reinvent the city. And by the way, congratulations on the Gig East exchange initiative official ribbon cutting later this afternoon. That is fantastic. A great facility. Angela, I think you noting that, again, businesses that were going to pack up and leave if the technological offerings didn't improve, and phenomenal job there with an 80% market share among businesses. And Robert took note of the fact that there was a need, obviously, to fill the void from existing providers, and that you're being there makes the pricing a bit more honest from the legacy providers. But I was really intrigued with your mention of the need for having redundant services. That's huge. Then it's not just commercial, but also now residential, looking for redundancy. And one final note too, also with regard to the questions about having the online customer portal accessibility. One of our fine sponsors, ETI Software Solution, part of their portfolio now includes just such an animal. Also, a huge thanks to our other fine presenting sponsors, DXTEL and Utopia Fiber. Heather, panelists, phenomenal job.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
So long, everyone.